Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Morbid early and ad-free. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
You're listening to a Morbid Network podcast.
Redacted, Declassified Mysteries is a new podcast hosted by me, Luke LaManna. Each week, I dive into the hidden truths behind the world's most powerful institutions, from covert government experiments to bizarre assassination attempts. Follow Redacted on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey weirdos, I'm Ash.
And I'm Elena.
And this is Morbid. We're back, babies.
Yes.
That one felt like, I was like, this.
Yeah, it felt
this
good.
is Morbid.
It felt good. I appreciate, you know what, I'll just get right into it really quick, and this will be quick. It won't be 15 minutes like the other one.
Will it be quick, Elena?
You guys rock. You rule. You roll. You do all of it. I love you all. All the kind words.
I was trying to think of another.
Another
verb.
R word.
Is that a verb?
But seriously, you guys are amazing. In that last episode, we kind of spilled everything, and it felt really good to say it. I felt like I was talking to my friends about it, so I really appreciate it.
That's like the most therapeutic.
Very cathartic.
I
was
almost
very
just
cathartic.
said, that's like Thole.
That is. You sound like my littlest one. She has the cutest little list.
I know. Rubs off.
But honestly, you guys were amazing. We've had so many kind words, and everybody's been really cool. And a lot of people were like, if you want to take more time off, feel free to, which again, thank you so much.
You're like, never.
But honestly, it feels good to be back. I thrive. Hello, it's Capricorn season.
I'm so scared.
We're here, and we're going to ruin everyone's lives with our rigidness.
Elena has fully bathed in the Capricorn season.
I feel good today. I feel good.
Terrified.
Yeah. See, I feel good. My littlest one is feeling good. She's back to being her old, her ragey self. She's really, she's in the thick of it, yelling at everybody. So I feel good.
Pissed today. Pissed that she couldn't go outside because it's raining. And she was like, I'm going to pull on my boots. I'm going to put my boots and go outside. And I was like, well, you can't. It's pouring rain and you literally have COVID.
She's
and she
hilarious.
Was like, but I want to.
She's like, you know
but
what?
I want to.
Yeah, she's great.
I get it.
She's feeling it.
I
mean, she's not Capricorn, but she's feeling it.
She might as well be.
She's feeling
Virgo,
the energy. So. She's feeling it. But she's doing good. We got from our vet, we got paw prints and a nose print of Bubba.
The nose print ruined.
It ruined me for
soul.
a second, but the card was so sweet. We heard from all her doctors.
Yeah.
And just seeing her little nose again was in little paws.
I smelled it.
And I just looked at it, it was you know what? She's here now. We have every piece of her now, so she's here. She's in the house. We got her. I feel her. I swear I heard her slurp the other night, and I was like, Bubba! And then I was like, oh, you're not here. But then I was like,
so
yes,
sad.
You are. You're right there.
Yeah, she stays slurping.
So I feel her. I feel it, and everybody's starting to get on the mend. We're feeling back in the groove. I'm feeling good today. And I think you all had a really big part of that, so I appreciate it immensely. Because everybody was just awesome. We got a really, you guys are really cool. Yeah. It's just kind of you guys are cool. You guys are really awesome. I'm just really glad we have this community of best friends that we can just be
I said to somebody they were like, oh my god, take off next week, but it was so great hearing your voices, something along those lines. And it was funny because you and I were just talking about it, and we were like, no, we missed you guys. When we sat down the other day to record, I was like, oh man, I needed that.
It felt right. We had that week that we took, but it was more of a week. It was a week of chaos. So it definitely wasn't a relaxing reprieve or something.
We were not really vibing per se.
But then I realized, and at first I remember we were we were going to take that week before Christmas, and we were going to kind of have it be a little bit of a reprieve or whatever from just working constantly. But then we realized after this last week, we're actually, it feels weird not to. I don't like that. Weird. It's not because this is what we do now. We like to do it. This is us, not the show.
Us, Lauren Graham.
This is us.
Is that her real name? I literally only know her
Lauren
as
Graham isn't in This Is Us.
Oh no, she's in that other one.
Is she? I was like,
We Are
I was
Family.
like, wait a second.
Somebody's probably
Parenthood.
Thank you.
There you go.
I just like We Are Family.
One of those.
Like
yeah.
I'm surprised that's not
Yeah.
the show.
I was like, wait, Mandy Moore is in This Is Us. But you know what? That's neither here
Wow,
nor
I'm
there.
surprised you know that.
Just wanted to say thank you so much. You guys rule. We're feeling good. We're back, baby. And I have something that has been just eating away at my psyche for the past 24 hours. I know I just said everything's fine, but this is different. This is different.
A different compartment.
So, as you know, the West Memphis 3 case is a case that, like, I am very, it's like very close to my heart. And there has been a huge news break in this case. Now, we heard recently, I think it was like, but the past year or so, we've heard that when they were trying to test the evidence that they have from it because they're trying to prove that someone else did this, obviously.
Yep.
And we're trying to find out who. There are 3 8-year-old boys who lost their lives that are still, the killer or killers is still walking around free. It's making me crazy. And for the last year or so, we've heard a lot of reports, and we've kind of talked about it just a little bit, that the West Memphis Police Department said that all the evidence that they could use to test any further was lost in a fire.
And
so when you
was
heard that, everybody
"But
was like,
wait."
what, in a fire? And it was devastating at first. It was like, in a fire? We're never getting that back. Like, that's gone.
Yeah.
It's over. Like, we'll never be able to choose. It was
Then everyone
devastating.
was like, what fire?
But then everybody was like, wow, when was this fire? And they were like, yeah, it was like, I was at a time. And it was definitely at a place.
Unrecorded, though.
And it was hot, like fire is. And we were like, oh, okay. And then, authorities were like, can we, maybe see, records of this fire? And they were like, no, we can't
Sorry,
do that.
no.
And they were like, why, though? And they were like, I don't know.
No.
Fire's fire. We don't need to talk about it anymore.
No.
They're
like, only you can prevent fires.
yeah,
So.
that's it. The end.
There's
And then they
your
just kind of
advice.
it was like, what? But, Damian Eccles and Jason Baldwin and their attorneys, Mara Leverett, who wrote Devil's Knot, she's been really into this case, and everybody else who has advocated for them was like, no. You're going to show proof of this fire. Where's that fire? Turns out, fire department came out and was like, there's no fire.
No.
There was no fire. Who's talking about a fire? No.
Can you imagine? Who just pulled that out of their ass and was like, no one will ask follow-up questions?
That was weird enough that they were like, there was a fire and there wasn't a fire.
I just love that they didn't think anything was going to come up.
Yeah. And then they came out and were
"There's a
like,
fire,
there
so I
wasn't a
said so."
fire. And it was like, okay, now what? Can we have that
What was
evidence
there?
then? And they were like, it's lost. I don't know.
Come
So
on.
now, yesterday, right before Capricorn season started, because we're going to get done in Capricorn season, I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling
Did
you.
it start today, or
I
did
feel
it-
it is today.
Is it today?
So all of a sudden it came out that one of the attorneys for Damian Eccles, Patrick Benka, said that he was in West Memphis. Now, the police chief, Mike Pope, resigned, by the way.
Quote unquote resigned.
He resigned. Don't know why.
Quote,
Can't imagine
unquote.
why. But Benka was in West Memphis yesterday morning and told Damian, here's all the evidence. It's all here. And he said specifically, even the ligatures.
That's so haunting.
It is there. They lied. It's literally there. Not only that, they released photos this morning, one of the news stations around there, and all of it is not only there, it's all there. It's pristine condition, and it was cataloged.
It's insane.
It's perfectly there. When you see this photo, there even the bikes are there. At least one of the bikes.
Oh, when you said that, I
The ligatures are there. We can test this.
Yeah.
And it's not, this is not on the national news. What is going on?
The fact
They
that it's not is
literally-
crazy.
That police chief resigned this week. Resigned. And then this comes out and they have every piece of evidence they have been hiding. And first of all, let me tell you, we're doing an episode where we are going to talk about this. I just needed to get this out right now because it's happening. But trust me, we're going to do a full-blown episode on this because I hope it just goes to the stratosphere.
It will.
These police officers, this department, were covering up for a murderer of 3 8-year-old boys. 3 children who were brutally tortured and murdered.
Yeah.
And they are withholding evidence and lying about evidence. They lied. They said it was gone and all of it is right there. That's wild. I know this happens all the time. But for a case like this where it's just they, especially with that Alfred plea and everything involved in this, the fact that they took these 3 men, the West Memphis Threes, their lives away.
Absolutely. And
for
continue to.
Almost 2 decades, like in prison. And afterwards, they still have to walk around with that stigma.
Well, they just like kicked them out on their asses.
They just get to maintain their innocence. They didn't get to sue for all of the time that was stolen from them, all the medical conditions they suffered from it, all the psychological torture, everything.
And like try getting a job when you have that as your record.
None of them got a dime from it.
Nope.
None of them were able to get themselves officially acquitted and cleared. And this in the state of Arkansas is just sitting there being like, well, and it's like, first of all, if anybody in their right mind thought that a state would let 3 child murderers walk free when they knew that they were guilty, that it tells you right there that they knew they weren't guilty. They would never let those 3 men walk out of there that afternoon if they for 1 second believed they were guilty.
No way.
They wouldn't do it.
No.
They knew they had nothing. They knew that they didn't do it. They know who did it. And whoever it is, they're covering up for these people, and it's insane.
Well,
because there is no other reason that they should keep that evidence.
And I guess Damien was told that the police chief was going to be fired, and then he never was fired.
Oh, yeah.
It came out that he quote unquote resigned, but that's interesting.
Oh yeah, he was going to be fired on December 21st, which wasn't that yesterday?
Yeah.
That he was going to be fired on December 21st, but he resigned.
Interesting.
It's wild to me.
Interesting.
So I promise you we are going to go so much further into that on another episode, but man, I had to like just scream about that because I'm going crazy.
Seriously.
And also, I want to find a way to get this to all these news stations. This should be national news.
Of course it should.
This kind of cover up and this kind of from a police department should be everywhere.
Well, and another reason
The
that it should
shadiest
be
police department.
everywhere is like, what if they destroy it now that they...
Well, they can't now. It's been taken out.
Oh, they took
There's
it?
a photo of people going through it now.
good.
Oh, it's out.
Because that's scary.
And now they can't.
I'm honestly
because
so-
it's like...
Of course, but I'm like, it's surprising.
I know. But it's more just like this should be known.
Yeah.
Like now there should be a real investigation into this police department. And now, like, let's get this tested. Let's start getting like the real suspects in here. Let's solve this case.
I just can't believe that was all sitting there all like I do believe it, but like I cannot believe.
No,
that,
I can't.
Like
I know this happens. Like corruption happens like this all the time.
but to that level,
And when you just see it play out like this, the way this is played out is just so like jaw dropping. It's amazing.
it's
So
insane.
it's like really crazy. But hopefully we'll have way more updates to do a full episode so we can talk about this because I am so hoping for some kind of justice for Damien, Jesse, and for Jason, and for Michael, Stevie, and Christopher.
Yeah.
Like all 6 of these boys deserve to have their
And their
justice.
families. Like they
And
still
their
have family members that are
families.
alive, obviously, and like
And then like it shows how this, how these original like Fogelman there and from the original investigation, it shows how they looked not only at the West Memphis Three, but at the families of these victims that they weren't worthy enough to
They
get
didn't give a
justice. And it's like these were children.
I mean, they got like he literally used it just to get Damien in prison. like he
it was
hated Damien.
wild. It's wild.
nuts.
Like, ugh. So
It's a
go
witch hunt.
if you want to go listen to the West Memphis 3 episodes, you can hear all about the case if you're not sure what we're talking about here. But again, we'll do another
Elena
episode.
did like a 4-parter, so that will
Yeah.
now be 5.
Yeah, it'll probably be more. But yeah, had to scream about that for a minute. But now I will hand the mic over to Ash.
Hotshot Australian attorney Nicola Gaba was born into legal royalty. Her specialty? Representing some of the city's most infamous gangland criminals. However, while Nicola held the underworld's darkest secrets, the most dangerous secret was her own.
She's going to all the major groups within Melbourne's underworld, and she's informing on them all.
I'm Marcia Clark, host of the new podcast Informants Lawyer X. In my long career in criminal justice as a prosecutor and defense attorney, I've seen some crazy cases, and this one belongs right at the top of the list.
She was addicted to the game she had created. She just didn't know how to stop.
Now, through dramatic interviews and access, I'll reveal the truth behind one of the world's most shocking legal scandals. Listen to Informants Lawyer X exclusively on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. And listen to more Exhibit C true crime shows early and ad-free right now.
In a quiet suburb, a community is shattered by the death of a beloved wife and mother. But this tragic loss of life quickly turns into something even darker. Her husband had tried to hire a hitman on the dark web to kill her. And she wasn't the only target. Because buried in the depths of the internet is the kill list, a cache of chilling documents containing names, photos, addresses, and specific instructions for people's murders. This podcast is the true story of how I ended up in a race against time to warn those whose lives were in danger. And it turns out, convincing a total stranger someone wants them dead is not easy. Follow Kill List on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Kill List and more Exhibit C true crime shows like Morbid early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. Check out Exhibit C in the Wondery app for all your true crime listening.
I took it.
She did.
So when we left off in part 1, everybody, things were going crazy.
Yeah, more chaos.
Why did I just stutter? It's like I start and it's just like,
you know what happens.
Nancy and Derek Haysom had just been found absolutely brutally murdered in their home, and seemingly it was like a dinner gone wrong because all the chairs were pushed back and everything. So the sheriff that arrived on scene, H.C. Wells, immediately assumed that this was a male killer because of the brutality on scene.
Yeah.
And the fact that whoever this person was able to take over Derek Haysom because he was like a big dude.
Yeah.
And presumably they had to be fighting Nancy off at the same time. So it's like he definitely thought that a man had to have done this.
Yeah.
But the question was, who would want to do this to the Haysoms and why? Like, why did this happen in the first place?
That's what I'm wondering.
So at the time in Virginia, they had actually set up a regional homicide squad where the 6 counties agreed that if a homicidal investigation became too big for just one county, they would all work on it together. And this was actually one of the first times where they had to band together and do this because really, like, they had some good evidence, but there wasn't a lot to do with it at the time because remember, this is the 80s. Like, there's not a lot of testing that they can do, unfortunately. No. So some of the evidence left behind were bloody fingerprints, which needed to be sent out for testing, a bloody handprint found on the dining room chair, a mouse trap, a bloody footprint impression that they were able to determine came from somebody wearing only socks. And had it been made by a woman, the shoe size would have been a 6.5, 7. And if worn by a man, it would be a 5 or 6 shoe size.
Okay.
There was also a piece of hair that did not belong to Derek or Nancy found in their bedroom. And the hair evidence was, quote, a Caucasian head hair approximately 1.5 inches in length from root to diagonally cut end. Now, again, it sounds like a lot of evidence, but this is 1985. And
there's not a lot they can do with it.
Forensics had not come that far yet.
Yeah.
So they started from square one. Ricky Gardner and Chuck Reed were the 2 lead investigators on the case. And their first move was to talk to the neighbors. Have you seen anything? Has anything weird been going on? Anybody who knew the Haysoms, they just wanted to get a picture of like what had been going on.
Yeah, like tell us everything.
And they obviously were having to track down all the Haysoms' children, who I mentioned in part 1. They were like scattered all across the map, like all across everywhere. But interestingly enough, the neighbors didn't really seem to know Derek or Nancy that well. And those who did, like, just didn't have any information to give the police. Like, nobody really had anything to say. And all of Derek and Nancy's kids had alibis because most of them were literally in another country when this happened. Most of them, except for Elizabeth, were in another country. So Elizabeth was the only one who lived in Virginia with her parents. Like, she was living at school, but then when she would come home, she'd be at home.
Yeah.
But she had been off with her boyfriend Jens that week doing a little road trip from DC to Charlottesville. So they were like, what? Like, who did this? So early on in the investigation, and mostly because I think they didn't have a lot of other places to go just yet, they wondered if this was somehow satanically motivated.
Oh, there it is.
Because again, 1985. So we are in the height of the satanic panic era. And
right when I came on the scene.
Yeah, literally. And the investigators talked to like some kind of satanic ritual expert, like I don't even know who that would be.
Same guy from the West Memphis 3 case, probably.
Yeah, with like the printout degree.
Exactly.
This person claimed that there were a lot of signs that this was some kind of ritual killing. The experts first noted that all of the chairs at the dining room table that were pushed back were facing north.
Okay.
So that's huge.
Yeah, it is.
The bodies were also facing north. And this one I'll give to them. Derek had that little V cut into his chin. So they were
That is weird.
That's ritualistic. And then they also found another little V in some of the blood by Nancy's body. And next to that V, they also believed that they saw the number 6, which is like huge in satanic rituals.
Yeah.
But it was like a very little marking on like the wood in the floor.
Okay.
Like in the blood.
Are there any crime scene photos of it?
I think so. I'll have to double check if I didn't see any with the number 6 in them.
But maybe.
The crime scene photos are
Rough.
very intense.
Yeah.
But there was also the way that the blood was surrounding the bodies. Whoever had done this had gone back like at some point and like just in their socks with the blood pooled around the bodies, they had like swished it all around.
Ooh.
To me, that kind of just says like they were doing it to like clean up or like destroy any like maybe something that they had left behind. I don't know why that would be satanic, but they were like Satanism rituals.
So Satanists like use their socks to like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to like swirl. I don't know if they thought like the pattern. It was literally just like swirled around. But
all right.
So yeah.
I mean, who's to say?
Who's to say? I'm not a satanic ritual guy.
Yeah, I don't claim to be one.
But speaking of blood, later into the investigation, they were able to do luminol testing on the scene, and it showed a set of bloody footprints walking from the living room to the bedroom and then into the bathroom off of the bedroom. So the killer at the very least like washed up in there, but they also thought he may have taken a shower. Ugh. Which is so haunting to think about. Like, you have 2 bodies lying in different rooms in that house and you're covered in their blood and you're just gonna hop in their shower,
and you just did this brutal, awful, chaotic murder,
and then
now
you're
just gonna calmly
showering.
shower in their house.
Like, what?
No.
Now, they did testing outside of the home too, and it showed 2 sets of footprints, and they were both the same size. So it showed obviously the killer had come outside and gone back in. And they think this is one person because it's like a set coming out and then a set going back in. And they thought like maybe he had gone outside and like been spooked by something, or like maybe somebody saw him so he went back inside and waited longer.
Yeah.
Or maybe had gone inside to make sure that like he had really killed them, and maybe at that point their throats were cut. That's what they were thinking.
Okay.
And later on, when the FBI was able to profile the scene, they disagreed with the sheriff. They said they did not think that this was the work of a male killer, but a female who knew the house well. So an acquaintance at the very least.
Okay.
So just as they got to the point where they were shifting the focus to a female in the case and like maybe involved in the Haysom's life, one just offered herself right up. Her name was Margaret Louise Simmons, and she just walked into the police station, was like, "Why haven't you guys talked to me yet?" And they were like, "Grab a chair, Margaret.
Sit down, Marge."
So Marge, at one point, had been engaged to Derek's son, Julian, and she was also Nancy's first cousin.
Oh.
But remember, Derek's son is like from a previous marriage, so they're not related.
Yeah, okay.
No,
that took me a second.
No weird stuff going on here.
Nothing,
it's fine.
Nothing crazy going on.
No. So she told the police a lot about her and Julian's relationship and how Derek and Nancy didn't approve of her. And she thought that they were the breakdown of her and Julian's relationship. So as they got to find out more about Margaret, they also learned from one of her friends that she had recently shown up to his house with a couple of knives. And she was saying to him, like, the demons are back again.
Oh, no.
Yeah. She also apparently told him that she was scared she was going to do something bad. Like, she was scared.
Oh, she's having a legitimate mental health crisis.
Yes, exactly.
Like, is everybody seeing this?
Is everybody okay? So the police were like, instead of helping you, can you actually just sit down and do a polygraph?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we know you're kind of stressed, but like, do you mind? And she agreed. And when the results came back, it showed that she had been deceptive when answering 2 specific questions. One of them was, were you at the Haysom house the night they were murdered? She showed deception on that. And then she showed deception when they said, did you kill the Haysoms?
Which
polygraphs don't mean anything.
Hot dog in a trench coat. And also, she's clearly going through a mental health crisis, like very clearly.
Like,
there's several things. She showed up with knives
evidence
to somebody's house and was like, the demons are back.
Right.
Said, I think I'm going to do something. And then walked into a police station and was like, why has no one talked to me? That's
like, guys,
call someone.
Please call someone.
And it's like, I don't think she's sitting down to a polygraph and is going to be like, did you do the test questions? Like, did you make sure that she is in a state where she should be taking a polygraph? Probably not.
And like, clearly she wasn't.
No.
I don't know why I made that noise, but she clearly wasn't. So the more and more that they talked to Margaret about what happened that night, they realized there was no way she was capable of the murders.
No.
She would go on like really long diatribes about when her and Julian were together, different vacations that they'd gone on, just things that like were not relevant to the investigation. And they realized that she was suffering from mental illness.
Course.
She had actually gone to like hospitals and like gotten treatment before and pretty recently. So they were like, she's definitely not our leading suspect.
She's just going through it.
And she actually asked if she could take another polygraph test at like a different period in time. And she gave the investigators fingerprints, footprints, DNA. She was totally cleared from any wrongdoing.
That's not shocking to me at all.
No. But so they then made, like, they were like, okay, but like, we still need to look at the females involved in their life. And like, so who are we going to look at? Let's look at Elizabeth. She has an alibi, but like,
she's the closest one.
She's close. And there was like some weird stuff at the funeral that we'll talk about. So they were like, we need to talk to her.
And she's the one that's like gone through a lot.
She's gone through a lot. She's also the youngest, and she still lives there, like to a point.
Makes sense why they would look at her.
Yeah. So she had this alibi. She was with Jens on a little weekend trip, but they were like, that's cool. We just want to like get to know you a little more.
Yeah.
Like just want to know what's up. So they had taken note that Jens at the funeral had some bandages on his hands and also had a bruise over his eye.
Oh.
Yes. And although this is not a crime, it was like Elizabeth really didn't seem too emotional, not only at the funeral, but just in day-to-day life. Like, people were commenting on her lack of emotion with like the brutal death of her parents.
Yeah, which people always are going to.
And we talk all the time, like that's not really like
that is not like
fair.
Smoking gun or something.
It doesn't mean you're guilty.
No, but it definitely can be a weird thing when there's other stuff that can point to you.
Raises some eyebrows.
Yes.
So they brought her in for an interview. She literally brought a sandwich with her.
Okay.
Brought a sandwich to her interview about
low blood sugar, I guess.
Like, girlfriend, what? Like, I understand a fellow hungry gal, but I don't know how much I would want a sandwich when talking about the brutal murder of my like elderly parents.
Yeah, no, I could barely eat after putting Bubba to sleep.
No, like of course not.
Never mind my parents.
She brought is it Marmite?
Marmite. Oh yeah,
Marmite sandwich, and they were like, oh, okay. Yeah. Anyways, that's not really important, but I just wanted to put it in there.
I think it's Marmite. I hope I wasn't just like, yeah.
Let me Google it.
Well, yeah, let's Google it just to make sure.
Marmite. I was right.
Yeah, you were right. All right. Good. We're good here, guys.
Marmite. So during the interview, the detectives learned all about Elizabeth's time at Wickham Abbey. Say it right this time, biatch.
Wickham.
I actually wrote in my notes, say it right this time, biatch.
She did. I saw it.
So somebody tweeted at me, they were like, oh, I actually went there, and like, you don't say it how you did. And I was like, and I looked it up in part 1, and then I just didn't write it down, I guess. So it's Wickham Abbey.
But thank you for telling us.
Yeah, thank you for telling us, because I didn't want to sound like a moron.
And you were like super nice about it. So
yeah, the person that said it was like wicked nice about it, and they went there, so they know.
Yeah, they were like, just saying.
They were like, and they were
totally
saying like Elizabeth's legacy is cray cray.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Not, I shouldn't say legacy, like just yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're in this interview, and they learn all about her time at school, her version of the time that she spent in Europe as a runaway. And that was when she said that her parents were just glad that she got it out of her system. If you listen to part 1, that's what she said their attitude was about the whole thing. And she just really wanted to make it clear that she had a great relationship with her parents. She loved them. They did everything for her. It was like they almost loved her too much.
Uh-oh.
And she said the last time she had physically seen them was the weekend of March 23rd, and that when she had seen them, she had planned to talk to them on the phone on Tuesday the 26th.
Okay.
And then, no, excuse me, I'm so sorry. So she had seen them on March 23rd, then she had talked to them on Tuesday the 26th.
Oh, okay.
And then, made plans to talk again on the 31st, that Sunday. But when she called them that Sunday, there was no answer. So that's when she didn't hear from them on Tuesday, and she called that friend to go check on them. And then obviously we know what happened from there. The Haysoms had been discovered on Wednesday, April 3rd, but police were able to determine that they'd either been killed Friday or Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the Friday or Saturday before that. So they were in there for a little bit. Now, when asked what she was doing the specific weekend, like that they were killed, Elizabeth explained the whole Charlottesville, D.C. trip. She said, we rented a car, we went sightseeing, then we spent the night in a hotel, the Georgetown Marriott, and they went to see a couple movies, which she bought ticket stubs for. One of them was Porky's Revenge, and the other one was the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Hell yeah.
And she agreed to give them her DNA. She agreed to give them fingerprints.
This all sounds great.
Which also would be found in the house anyway. So, like, it's really not that helpful.
Yeah, that's true.
Because she lives there.
But I mean, I guess you're right.
I mean, well, yeah, like her DNA is all over
Yeah, I
the
was
place.
just going to say she literally lives there.
I was like, well, wait,
so-
the DNA. And then I was like,
The DNA.
well, no.
She literally lives there.
Yeah, like for part-time. But she was free to go. And before she left, she was sure to tell the investigators, you know, Daddy has a lot of enemies. She called her dad Daddy. Has a lot of enemies. And like a lot of them are from like business dealings and like his time in different countries. So like, I just want you to know that.
She's like, just throw that out there.
Lots of enemies. So
Lots
they were
of
like,
enemies.
yeah, cool, thanks. And then she left.
Like,
And
interesting.
Chuck Reed and Ricky Gardner looked at each other and they were like, she was weird, right?
Like that was strange,
That
right?
whole thing was
That
like really off,
yeah.
correct? And they both agreed, like, yeah, that was weird. So they went to check out the car that Elizabeth and Jens had rented. And they were like, maybe we'll find something in there, like maybe some blood or something.
Yeah.
They didn't find blood or anything like that. But they were able to find out that the car was returned with a lot more miles on it than a trip from Charlottesville to DC would have taken.
Oh.
429 miles to be exact. Extra.
You're going to notice that.
429 extra miles.
Yeah, that's going to flag.
Weird too, because that actually would have been the distance from Charlottesville to Washington, Washington to Loose Chippings, and back.
Weird.
So crazy.
Weird how that all worked out.
So they said, hey, Elizabeth, what's up with the 429 that we got?
You
and
want to
she was
explain
like,
that?
we are so silly, me and Jens. We got lost.
For 400 miles.
We got lost on our sightseeing trip, and, you know, we kept going in circles, and it's so embarrassing.
For 400 miles.
And they were like, yeah, that's weird. That's a relatively short trip that you took. It's like a 2.5 hour ride. And you're a world traveler, and so is your boyfriend.
Yeah.
And you guys got lost sightseeing on a 2-hour trip?
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
For 400 miles.
Yeah. Okie dokie.
Like, okay.
So by that point in the investigation, they had talked to Jens too once or twice, but he refused to give anything. No DNA, no fingerprints, no nothing. He was like that.
Bruh.
And he said, he had a reason. He said it was because his father was a diplomat. And if like all of this was going on, he was worried that it would become public, and then like this whole investigation thing would be like placed on him. It would make his father's reputation go down the tank. So
That's cute. That's a good story, Jens.
Yeah.
That's nice. But you still have to cooperate with an investigation of which you are now a person of interest in.
also your girlfriend's 2 parents were brutally murdered. So like, yeah, I think people might find out that you're attached to her at some point in time.
You are literally a person of interest in this investigation, so you kind of have to cooperate.
Thank you.
You can't just be like, well, my dad's a diplomat, so
Sorry.
can't it's like, no, that doesn't work. That's not like, oh, okay.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like my doctor says I can't do PE today.
Like, no.
It's not the same.
It's not like I have my period. I can't
No,
do this.
it's not the same.
Remember that? I had my period every single time we had to do anything in gym.
I
was like,
loved gym.
I have cramps. Sorry.
I was a weird kid.
I hated gym so much. Clearly. So every time they tried to talk to Jens, he would talk to them, and his story would be like very, very identical to Elizabeth's, like too identical. So finally in early October, the investigators were like, they felt like they were close to getting Jens to hand over some DNA. And he said, you know, I just have to go home. I have to, you know, clear this with the German embassy. And then once I hear back from them, can you imagine? Like, I just have to clear this with the embassy. And then I think they're going to get back to me. I'll come in tomorrow and we'll figure this out. Like, I'll give you my DNA.
Okay, Dorothea.
Yes. And they were like, okie doke. Like,
Yeah.
tell us what the embassy says.
Totes.
So, well, folks, you could imagine.
What happened?
The next day came and went without Jens ever showing up.
Oh, no.
So the police went out to he and Elizabeth's apartment, and they were, because by this time they got an apartment together, because obviously she's still not living in that house.
Yeah.
But they were met by the couple's roommate, who handed them a letter that Jens had intentionally left for investigators Reed and Gardner. And it read,
Oh, no.
Dear offices, Reed and Gardner, I assume that you, especially Mr. Gardner, will be very excited by now, which is why I hate to disappoint you. Well, that's not exactly true. I suggest that you continue your investigation as before. Undoubtedly, you will find whom you are looking for. As for me, I'm afraid you must remain, as Officer Reed put it, only 99% sure of my innocence. From what Liz has told me of what you discovered at Loose Chippings, I can only say I'm incapable of such a thing. I do not have many friends, but I think they will all substantiate this, and my long-standing dissatisfaction with my life here.
Okay. He is literally written by somebody who wrote an early aughts WB, like drama.
Yes.
He's a villain.
Yes.
From, whatever those, they would have like the Superman or like the Batman like teen dramas.
Yep.
Before they were actual adults.
Yep.
That's like Lex Luthor.
Yep.
From those.
It truly
like a WB
is.
writer.
Yeah.
CW writer.
Yeah.
Wrote that.
Wrote Jens.
Wrote that.
You can also watch interviews with Jens.
Are you kidding me?
With you can watch interviews with him, and he very much gives off those vibes.
That's so bad. Like, that's so bad and so cringy.
And the part where he's like, I hate to disappoint you, and then puts in parentheses like, well, that's not exactly true.
No, that was the part where I was like, oh no,
Stop it.
Somebody in the CW writers room was like, oh, this is really gonna drop the mic. Like, what? This is his villain origin story. No, that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. And then I love that he was like, I don't have a lot of friends, but they'll substantiate that I didn't murder anyone.
My no friends will substantiate.
Okay, yeah, we'll go hunt them down, and that will be evidence in a court of law. Thank you.
Wow.
So as the officers were reading that letter, Elizabeth and Jens were most likely on their plane rides to Europe because they ran away to Europe.
Yeah, of course they did.
So to get out there, they traveled separately and in disguises. And then when they met up in Europe, their whole plan was that they were going to rent a car and like go on a road trip together. But unfortunately,
they love road tripping.
Yeah, love a road trip. Unfortunately, though, they ended up in a car accident and they had to fly again, which was something they didn't want to do, obviously, because they're on the run.
Yeah.
So they flew to Bangkok, actually. And it was there that they went to like a printing shop and they got all kinds of false traveling documents. They got Canadian driver's licenses, certified passports, and citizen certificates. And each of them had 3 different sets of photos for each document to make sure it didn't look like it was like the same day. In each one, they like would change up their hair or like put like a different shirt on or something.
What?
Yeah. Crazy.
How is this real?
It doesn't sound real at all. They also started going by different names and made up different backstories in case anybody asked. Now they were a Canadian couple, Tim and Julia Holt.
Oh, okay.
They had gone to college together at the University of Kent and then been married shortly after that.
How lovely.
And it was with those fake names that they set up their bank account with Lloyd's Bank. Now, they were able to get check guarantee cards, which made it so that the bank would still honor a bounce check up to £50.
Oh.
Or $60. It was like a policy that bank had back then.
Okay.
And by this point, they were back in London. And they had come up with this scheme that they were going to do together while shopping at Marks and Spencer. One of them would buy a leather jacket at the store. And they would use their guaranteed check. And then later on that same day, one of them would come back with another jacket from a different location and return it for cash. So the scheme worked because Marks and Spencer were never missing out on their money, if you think about it. It takes a minute to think about.
Yeah, it does.
And Lloyd's Bank had a policy at the time where they didn't report fraud under £10,000.
Oh.
So it was kind of genius.
No, that's like really cunning.
Yeah.
Like very cunning.
Because through this little scheme, Elizabeth and Jens made a profit of around £6,000 or at the time, $9,000. Yeah. Like,
wow.
Not
just
doing
that?
a single thing.
Just that? Just returning a leather jacket every day?
Yeah, they would just go to like different locations around the city.
Damn.
So with that money, they opened up an account together at Midland Bank under the names Tara Lucy No and Christopher Platt No.
Yeah.
They moved into like a little apartment, or a flat, I should say, in Bath, and they kept up their Marks Spencer scheme. So usually they'd go in separately and like hours apart, but one day Elizabeth wanted to spice things up a little bit, and she thought they should go in at the same time.
Oh.
And do this whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, that was stupid because one of the employees at the time realized what was going on and like called down an undercover police officer, and they were arrested immediately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just because she was bored.
just because she just wanted to spice up their scheme.
Yeah.
So it was April 30th, 1986, more than a year since Elizabeth's parents had been murdered. So on May 29th, 1986, Detective Terry Wright called Detective Gardner and asked him if the names Elizabeth Haysom and Jens Soering sounded familiar at all. He was like, do you know these names? Because we have them in custody. And Detective Gardner was like, hell yeah, I know those names.
Oh my God, imagine that call.
Oh my God, after a year.
He must have been so excited.
Seriously. So he hopped on the first plane out to London, and he was able to interview Elizabeth and Jens that weekend, but that was all the time that he was going to have with them, because technically they were like in custody, in like UK custody.
Yeah.
So if he couldn't get one of them to confess, then the UK was just going to proceed with their fraud charges against the couple, which like they wouldn't have gotten that much jail time.
No.
And they would have just been free to go.
been gone.
But if he could get them to confess, it would be a totally different ballgame.
Oh my God, this is like the most high stakes interrogation.
It's huge. So Jens decided that he was ready to talk. They got one recorded interview with him, I guess, and then he said, come back the next day without the recorder, and I'll tell you what you need to know. And he signed.
I hate when they try to get like the power. It's like,
and like they like kind of have to give it to them because they need what they need
to get it.
So he signed solicitor waiver forms, and he said, come back without the recorder, I'll tell you everything. And he made a full confession.
Oh no.
He said that Elizabeth and he had planned to go on that trip. That road trip was for real. But that on their way to DC, they started talking about how much they both hated Elizabeth's parents. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to gain their respect. And if it doesn't go well, I'll kill them.
Why are those the only two options?
Yeah. I don't know.
You
why.
either gain their respect or you murder them?
I don't know
There's
what
there's
they were
no
thinking.
in between?
No. There was a lot of drugs involved here too. Like Elizabeth was like using.
Oh, okay.
It's unclear whether Jens was using, but I think we can all use our imaginations.
Yeah.
So he drove out there, and Elizabeth, they came up with this whole plan. She was going to go to 2 different movie theaters to get the tickets as an alibi in case they needed one. She literally took notes on the different architecture of both theaters so that she'd be able to talk about it later.
Wow.
She also cashed a check in Jens' name and ordered room service for 2 people, so it looked like there was 2 people in the room. And then the plan was that he would come back and they would go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show together, and they would create a scene at the Rocky Horror Picture Show to show that they had been there.
Wow.
And Elizabeth joked later on, she was like, but everybody causes a scene at Rocky Horror Picture Show, so it wasn't a very good plan.
Like, you guys know it, right? It's like,
okay.
So much fun.
Like so cultured,
so
Elizabeth.
Fun. Yeah.
So Jens said that once he got to the Haysom house, everything was all right at first. Derek and Nancy invited him into their fucking home, gave him a drink, like they sat down together and obviously like maybe offered him some food. But at one point in the conversation, it became heated. And he said that they threatened to have him kicked out of UVA if he didn't just leave Elizabeth.
Wow.
Which I'd be like, cool, I'll dip.
I will leave.
So it was at that point that Jens said he got up to leave, but that when he did, Derek Haysom grabbed him and held him up against the wall, like jerked him up against the wall. And Jens had a knife on him, which he said was for protection.
Oh, yeah.
But as he got it out, he started stabbing Derek in the neck. So,
come on.
Once Nancy saw that Jens had a knife, she got her own and tried to use it to fight off Jens. But he got control of the knife and he was able to wrestle Nancy down. And he also started using her as a shield, like against Derek Haysom, like using Derek Haysom's wife of years and years and years as a shield.
My God. Like, this is...
It's horrific.
They invited him into their home. Yeah. He's dating their child. Like, they have every right to have an opinion about this.
And
she lives with them.
He's like an 18-year-old boy. When would you ever expect that something like this would happen to you?
And poor Nancy, like, jumps up to try to, like, defend
Protect
her husband with a knife. And he's, it's just, this is, like, too much.
It's horrific. So once he had her down, he cut her neck. And the next thing he said he remembered was throwing away any evidence that he could.
Yeah, my favorite thing in these things is they always say, and then the next thing I remember.
It's like, no, you remember
every second of it. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, you're just an asshole.
And he said, so he threw away the evidence, and while he was doing that, he realized that his hands were cut up really badly. So he went inside to wash up and decided at that point he would use his socks to wipe up some of the blood to make sure that he didn't leave any fingerprints behind.
Shocking.
And he said he was going to swirl the blood around the bodies to get rid of any footprints that he had made.
There you go.
So
satanic.
So satanic, wicked. So once he and the scene were all cleaned up, he said he wrapped himself in a bed sheet. So he also took one of their bed sheets.
Asshole.
Turned off all the lights in the house and just drove back to be with Elizabeth. Yeah. And
I have no words.
As he finished that story, he showed Detective Gardner his hands and pointed out the scars that he had gotten from that night. Like, he literally had scars on his hands. So Elizabeth made a full confession too when she found out that Jens had, and the points matched up perfectly. Like,
yeah,
that was clearly what had happened. She didn't want to go through having a trial, actually. So she said, I'll just plead guilty.
Wow.
Which is, like, they were like, are you sure? Because,
like, what?
If you plead guilty, you're going to get it. Like, we might be able to, like, figure out a plea deal. And I guess she was like, no, I don't want to. Like, I'll just plead guilty, which was interesting.
Yeah.
So she pled guilty as an accessory before the fact, and she was given 245 sentences for each death to be served consecutively.
Wow.
Which was a huge, like, sentence for an accessory before the fact.
Yeah, that's still a huge sentence.
So during her confession, she also said, are you ready?
Oh, no, probably not.
This is a movie. Like, it's crazy. She told detectives that she and Jens had actually followed Detective Gardner home one day after they were being questioned and said that they had plans to kill him. They were going to kill the lead detective on the case. And they were both able to describe what his house looked like.
And this detective didn't realize he was being followed? That's a little scary.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, I'd be like, whoa, all right.
Followed him home one day. So scary. So Jens' trial was much different because his original hope was that he'd be tried in Germany, where his father had certain privileges.
Yeah, of course, asshole.
In Germany, because of the 1961 Vienna Convention. Yeah, I don't know why. I just said convection like we're about to bake cookies.
Yeah.
Convention, thank you.
No problem.
Direct family members of a diplomat would receive immunity from most criminal and civil prosecutions, which I'm like, you think that because your dad is a diplomat, you can murder someone and get away with it?
Yeah, none of their kids could be evil. There's
like,
no way.
I don't know if it applies to like that, sir. So if he were tried in Germany, Jens knew he would most likely be tried as a minor, and he was assuming he'd probably get a maximum of 10 years and would definitely get out on parole too before those 10 years were
go
up.
murder more people. Moida.
But the UK wanted Jens extradited back to America because these murders were committed in Virginia, aka America. So Germany said,
Virginia, also known as America.
Yeah, like America. So Germany asked if Jens were to be tried in America that he not face the death penalty.
Okay.
And they were like, well, maybe.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. So Jens learned that he was going to be extradited back to Virginia, that he had no hopes of only serving 10 years in Germany.
Good.
Took back his whole confession.
Oh, of course he did. He
was like, no, I was actually under duress when I confessed.
That doesn't work, though.
They made me
because
confess.
Elizabeth matched right up with yours, so that doesn't work.
Oh, just wait.
Like, good try.
He said it was not me who committed these murders. It was Elizabeth. She went and did this. I didn't even know that she was going to do this. And then she just came back all bloody. And she said, you know, we have to figure this out. And so she told me, this is what he said. He said that she told him, describe to me like what you would do if you murdered my parents, like what you think I did.
What?
And then the parts that you get wrong, I'll say, no, try again. And you'll just try until you get to the story that like I did.
Oh my God. This is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Like, you think that anybody is going to believe that that is what happened?
That is the stupidest I've ever heard. And also, he has scars all over his hands. Like, he proved, like, hi, here's all the scars.
He has, like scars on his hands, exactly. But he said, no, it was her. And she told me, just tell me what you think I did, and we'll get to the story together.
I'm truly
befuddled. Like me, I'm like that guy with like all the equations surrounded.
Yeah, just what?
Like what? And he said, you know, she's the woman I loved. I was willing to spend 10 years in prison for her, but not more than that.
Oh no, you know, that's a whole different kind of relationship.
Exactly.
It's one thing to be willing to spend 10 years in prison for someone.
11, never.
11, we're
done.
Talking marriage now.
We're
and
done.
That's a lot.
So
I'm not ready for that commitment yet.
I truly cannot.
I'm
befuddled.
I'm taken aback.
Yeah, exactly. So while getting ready to go to trial, the investigator searched Elizabeth and Jens' flat in England and came back with a myriad a myriad of incriminating letters and diary entries.
You don't say.
Jens had written a letter to Elizabeth saying, "Were I to meet your parents, I have the ultimate weapon. Strange things are happening with me. I'm turning more and more into a Christ-like figure, a small imitation anyway."
Oh my God, kick him so hard in the nuts.
He goes, I think.
I
believe I could either make them completely lose their wits, get heart attacks, or they would become lovers in an agape kind of way of the rest of the world.
There's so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
How does someone get a heart attack? Where do you get one of those?
Get heart
Can you
attacks.
get them at Best Buy?
Like,
where can you pick one up?
I'm turning into a more Christ-like figure, I think.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
I'd be like,
I
what
can't
is
be
happening
sure.
here?
I just feel it.
So
somebody repeatedly kicked this dude in the nuts.
Please.
For me. Please.
She wrote back to him saying, "It
God.
seems my concentration on their death is causing them problems. My father nearly drove over a cliff at lunch. He nearly got squashed by a tree when he got home, and he keeps falling over. And my mother, drunk, fell into the fire. I think I shall seriously take up black magic. We can either wait till we graduate and then leave them behind, or get rid of them soon. My mother said today that if some accident befell them, she knew I would become a worthless adventurer. More maternal acumen."
I love how she literally lays it out perfectly. She's like, well, we could just graduate and just leave them behind and never talk to them again. Or we could murder them now. What do you think is the best option?
What is the more rational
You have
decision
just said
here?
exactly what you should do. Graduate, leave. They'd probably be fine without you. So it's like, just go away.
Right. Exactly.
And she's like, you know what? I feel like the best course of action here is just to brutally murder them in their own home, though.
I think so.
I don't
Probably.
know. I feel like that's the best way to go about it.
She wrote another one.
Yeah, she did.
"Why don't my parents just lie down and die? I despise them so much. Would it be possible to hypnotize my parents, do voodoo on them, will them to death?" And then actually that part that I read before is actually in this letter. "We can either wait until we graduate and leave them behind, or we can get rid of them soon."
Yeah, simple solution. The first one.
So Jens answered that letter saying, "The fact that there have been many burglaries in the area opens up the possibility for another one with the same circumstances. Only this time... ...
I hate these
So
two.
you're like literally saying exactly what you're going to do.
So much.
And then finally, we have a diary entry made by Elizabeth which said, "The case is about to be solved. Perhaps fingerprints on coffee mug used by Jens in Bedford interview gave him away."
I have to leave. Like, I have to go reevaluate everything.
I have to leave.
These two, for two people who came up with like some pretty cunning and manipulative,
that
and
Marks and
pretty
Spencer
smart
scheme.
things, man, they're dumb.
Truly.
For being able to come up with like some really, really cunning things, they are dumb as rocks and insufferable.
Insufferable.
They are insufferable.
Like, you want to take up black magic?
They
Get
are
out of here.
no. I just have to leave.
And like they think that they have powers. Like they're like,
no.
You know, I think us thinking about this is like a tree almost fell on my dad today. That is horrific. Your father is 72 years old.
No, they are that couple that you're like, you would be around somewhere and like not choose to be.
Oh, God,
And then
yeah.
you get in the car with your own significant other or your friend and be like, what was that?
We're
Like,
never doing this
We are never
again.
turning into those people. We are never hanging out with those people again. Why did you bring me here?
Also, can we point out that this man, her father, Derek, literally moved his family out of Zimbabwe before it became Zimbabwe because he was worried about his children and his wife.
Yeah.
And like worked his whole life. Like Nancy wanted to go back to Virginia to give Elizabeth this beautiful life. Like all they wanted for her was the best, it seemed.
Wow.
Yeah. So, before the trial started, both Jens and Elizabeth were evaluated, and at the time, Elizabeth was actually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder formally.
Okay.
And Jens was formally diagnosed with shared delusional disorder, but
Oh.
he was deemed fit to stand trial, obviously. So his trial began on June 1st, 1990. Wedding anniversary.
Look at that.
And there seemed to be a solid amount of evidence against him. There were 4 different blood types found at the scene. Type A and type AB, which were Derek and Nancy's blood types. 1 spot of B blood, which was Elizabeth's blood type. And 5 different samples of type O blood, which was Yen's blood type.
Oh, okay.
To be fair, it's also the most common
I was
blood
just
type
going to
ever.
say it's a very common blood type.
Yeah, but they
But still.
also talked about the bruise on Yen's face, which he himself said came from the struggle he had with Derek Haysom and the cuts on his hands. And finally, there were the impressions found at the scene believed to have been made by somebody wearing socks. So this expert testified, saying that Yen's footprint was a perfect match to this impression. Later on, the judge said that evidence regarding the sock print was not admissible because he was like, I don't even know how you figured that out.
I was just going to say, because he's probably like, it's a sock, bro.
He's like, they have those at Payless,
It
actually,
is
for you to
a
measure
sock.
your kid's feet.
Like,
Thank you.
sure, but no.
No.
Probably not a great one.
And it was a good thing that he didn't make that evidence admissible because it turned out that expert was a tire print expert.
Yeah, okay,
Not
those
a
are different.
Not a barefoot sock impression expert.
Yeah, it's one of those things you line up a tire and a foot and you're like, ooh, so close, so close,
Yeah,
so close.
Not the same though. Yeah. So there wasn't necessarily really any physical evidence directly and undoubtedly connected to Yen's. And the problem, though, was that he didn't do himself any favors on the stand. So while there wasn't a lot of, like...
I'm shocked by that.
A lot of, like, for real evidence.
Yeah.
It was, like...
He was kind of handing some...
He was.
Which is not shocking at all, considering they are the most insufferable two people on planet Earth.
Oh, yeah. The jurors literally said, like, he came off as the most arrogant fuck.
The jury's like, we hate him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know him. I don't know if he did it. I just hate him.
Like, he was, like, smiling on stand.
Yeah, he's the
He was, like,
worst.
correcting lawyers with,
No,
like,
he's
things that they had
literally the
said.
worst.
Like,
oh my God, I
trying to be
wanna
like,
punch him.
I'm smarter than you.
Oh,
and
I
he'd,
hate
like,
him.
laugh. And they'd be like, you're on trial right now for
a double murder.
double homicide.
Yeah.
And you have time to loll? Okay. Wow. So they were like, yeah. I'm like, no, like, he's arrogant. And they couldn't get past the fact that he had literally confessed.
Yeah, and given a perfect confession that matched Elizabeth's.
Yeah, exactly. And Elizabeth also testified against him, and literally, like, she was very believable on stand.
She's
for the
like, I'm
most part.
over this. Let's just...
Exactly. The other thing was that in the confession, he was the one who did everything and, like, knew all of these details, but then he took it back and said, no, Elizabeth did all of this, and, like, tried to go with that whole story of, like,
Oh my God.
she said, say what you think I did, and they were all like, no, that didn't happen.
That truly, there can't be a person on planet Earth that
would believe
hears that story and is like, that's likely what happened.
No, exactly.
Nobody would do that.
No.
That's so bad.
So all in all, it took the jury 4 hours to find Jens.
I'm surprised it took that long.
To find Jens guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to 2 life sentences,
Good.
and he was sent to the Buckingham Correctional Center in Virginia.
Bye.
During his time in prison, he published 5 books and, like, mostly kept to himself while maintaining his innocence. And he once said, if I had committed the murders, I would have committed them the way I committed the check fraud, with care and planning. The slaughter of the Haysoms appeared risky, messy, and personal.
Honey, that's not the, like, burn that you think it is.
Not
Like,
at
that's
all.
not like the dunk that you think it is on anyone. Like, you're literally doing the if I did it.
I was just
Like,
going to say,
no.
you just took that from OJ.
Yeah, nobody cares what you if I did. Okay.
It's like that. Don't make that
I thought you
statement.
didn't do it. I
And
don't
like, so your mind is capable of
No, it
murderous
doesn't.
activity?
It doesn't make any sense.
No. So in 1995, he filed an appeal, and they said you. And then flash
That's
forward.
what it literally says that on the record.
Yeah,
It's like
you.
yes.
And then flash forward to November of 2019.
I don't like that look in your face.
Flash
I
forward
don't like that look in your
to
eyeballs.
November of 2019.
What's he doing, Ash?
Jens Soering and Elizabeth Haysom were both released early from prison. She's up. She's actually up. She left. Oh, she's coming back. She's coming back. She's coming back. I'm not you. If that was on video, I was like, I don't know what I have to tell the rest of this to them and nobody else.
What? Where are they? What's going on?
They were released early after 30 years each.
Why?
According to the Richmond Times-Dispatch, the chair of the Virginia Parole Board, Adrian L. Bennett, said, quote, the parole board has determined that that releasing Jens Soering and Elizabeth Haysom to their ICE deportation detainers is appropriate because of their youth at the time of the offenses, their institutional adjustment, and the length of their incarceration.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They weren't like 16. Like this isn't like
No,
they were
Jens
like
was 18 and she was
14-year-olds.
20.
Like come on.
Exactly. So While he was in prison, Jens did make a few points about new evidence that was able to be tested. There were 42 samples from the crime scene that were not linked to him in any way.
Okay.
11 of those 11 of those samples directly excluded not only him, but Elizabeth, too.
Okay.
24 of them couldn't be processed for DNA, and 7 of them didn't contain enough information for comparison.
Okay.
I personally think that Elizabeth and Jens are 100% responsible for killing her parents. I think if these murders had occurred when more testing could have been done, it would have just given us a clearer picture of who did what.
I was going to say that I think it would have locked it in if it was, like you said, at the time when we had the technology to test this stuff, like fresh and like when it happened. And collection is better now. Like even collection, not even testing. So I think it's just a matter of they happened to do it at a time when... They weren't going to get all of it.
Didn't have all of that, but I still think the right people went to prison.
Yeah, I do
personally. Too. There's people out there that don't.
Wow.
But I think the biggest part of this case that confuses me is motive. Now, Elizabeth definitely had a lot of anger toward her parents based on everything that happened, like clearly. And you can hear her talk about it in the different letters that she sent Jens. She's actually gone back and forth a lot of times when it comes to her relationship with her parents. She sometimes said that they were like the most doting and loving parents, and other times she literally said it was that they loved her too much. Which at first I was like how can somebody love somebody too much? And then I kind of got into like cryptic thinking with that, and then I was reading more about this case. And it turns out during a lot of interviews with police, they asked about her specific relationship with her mother, Nancy. And at one point or another, Elizabeth told Detective Gardner that her mother had been abusive towards her.
Oh, boy.
She said specifically that Nancy would, quote, come into her bed naked very often and indulge in some very affectionate hugging and kissing.
Eek.
Now, she later took that statement back and said all she meant was that her mother was aggressively affectionate, but not that she had abused her.
Oh, boy.
So when she took the stand for her official testimony, she said Nancy was not abusive and that she just loved her too much. She said she loved me
like suffocating,
like too much. Almost, it was like her fault.
Okay.
Like to a fault, I mean.
Yeah.
But because she has so many different versions of the story regarding the relationship with her mother, people who look into this case, you kind of just have to make your own conclusion based on the evidence. It is, however, worth noting that during their search of the home after the murders, investigators did find 5 photos tucked away in Nancy's art studio. The photos were of Elizabeth when she was younger, and she was naked in all of them.
Ooh.
Her genitalia was covered, and it was seemingly like for art purposes. And those who knew Nancy said they must have been for her paintings because she literally did do paintings of people in the nude. Like they actually found one while they were going through the studio. But Elizabeth was like a younger girl in these photos, and it was just a little bizarre.
That's unsavory.
It's unsavory for sure.
For sure. Like that's not something you can just be like, oh yeah, that's what parents do.
Yeah.
Like, no,
it's very, very strange. That's really all there is to that because Elizabeth has gone back and forth so many times, which if she was assaulted or abused by her mother, it makes sense.
Clear motive.
Yes, clear motive. And it makes sense. Like she's going back and forth because I'm sure a part of her feels guilty for killing her mother if she did.
Oh boy.
That
adds a whole different layer to this.
And you
can't really make a call.
Well, you can't. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times people with borderline personality disorder have gone through some kind of assault in their childhood.
And obviously, again, not
everybody, but it's
not
like
a blanket statement.
It's a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So we just don't know.
Wow. That changes a little bit. I mean, obviously it doesn't
change the fact that they were murdered.
Yeah, and it doesn't, you can't really know. Like, all you can do is, all we have is Elizabeth. And if that's what she went through, then dear God. Like,
exactly.
That's horrific.
But I guess it does give you a bigger piece of the picture of the motive here.
Of why she was so angry.
Right.
If that is the case.
Right.
But again, it's like the two people who this is being set against are not here to defend themselves or to present any kind of evidence to the contrary.
Right.
So that's tough.
It is.
I have no opinion on that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do.
No, it's
not fair to either party.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like those photos are bizarre.
And it's a fact. It's just
and it's facts.
And it's worth noting, which I'm glad you did because you don't want to like hold stuff back that's gonna
Of course not.
No, that's wild.
So, to end this story, in January of last year, January of 2020, Elizabeth was deported to Canada and Jens was deported to Germany, and they are both prohibited from ever entering the US again.
Wow.
And that is the story of the murders of Derek and Nancy Haysom.
Guys, that was a wild ride.
A wild ride. And again, the book that I used for a lot of the research here is Beyond Reason, the true story of a shocking double murder, a brilliant, beautiful Virginia socialite, and a deadly psychotic obsession, written by Ken Englade.
Wow.
Yes.
I mean, regardless of what went down, those letters between the two of them and the diary entries,
still insufferable.
You guys are talking about murdering them.
Yeah.
And then they got murdered.
And then he had a bruise on his face at the funeral. He said
a very weird coincidence.
Yeah, like he had a bruise on his face. He said he was thrown against a wall. Like that checks out.
Yeah.
He had cuts all over his hand. That checks out. She has these tickets from these movies.
No,
like,
it all adds up to them doing
everything.
It for sure. It's just now it just becomes sticky with a matter of like motive and all that.
Exactly. And the fact that she pled guilty anyway. Like,
yeah.
And she was like, no, I don't want anything. Like,
yeah, like I just want
send me to jail.
I did it.
Send me to prison.
Wow.
Like that's very telling.
That's truly outrageous.
Yeah. It's really just like sad case all around.
I feel like it's like I knew part maybe. I like knew the names in this case, but I had no idea the details.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
know any of this.
exactly how I feel. Because when I saw the book, I was like, obviously we were joking. Like I was like, oh, that drew me in.
Yeah.
And then I was reading a description and I was like, Elizabeth Haysom. I was like, why does that name sound familiar?
Very, yeah, definitely.
Wild.
Wow. That was crazy.
Wild.
Thank you for bestowing that horrible.
You're welcome.
Thank you story on us
for leaving at one point.
You're welcome. I didn't know what to do. I had to go. I did not see that coming.
I wish that had been on. And I was like, and they got out of prison. You were like, and I'm out of.
I've got to go. I don't like.
I'm leaving.
I had no idea that was coming. Usually I didn't tell you, but when I saw it, I was like, "What are those eyeballs?"
I didn't tell you.
I could see that twinkle in your eye, like I'll look you up in a second.
Because I was telling her like little bits about this case, like in between the two recordings, but I left like big, huge parts out.
Yeah, she did.
I wanted like real raw reaction.
You got it.
Boom.
You got it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Crazy.
Wow.
Well, guys, as always, thank you so much for listening and.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
Hope you enjoy yourselves.
Is this the last one before the holidays?
Before the holidays, yeah.
All right, so perfect. I just wanted to say I hope you all have a merry and bright holiday with your family and eat whatever you want. It's going to be so yummy.
It is. It's going to be wonderful.
Open all your presents. And then guess what? This is my final message. If you have not done this, buy yourself a Christmas present.
Yeah.
I buy myself a Christmas present every year. My great-grandma used to buy herself a Christmas present every year, and I think everybody should do it.
Yeah, but it's just even just something small.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be huge.
Of course
not.
That makes you happy.
I got myself a pair of Adidas Swift Runs.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Yay.
Love that.
Woohoo.
I got a candle from Anita's Apothecary on Etsy, and I think you guys should also get yourselves one of those because they are the most beautiful candles.
That's like a Tuesday for you, though.
Anita's
Apothecary. Get yourself something. Get something else. I love Anita's Apothecary. Elena's house is Anita's Apothecary.
I'm
Elena's Apothecary.
I love her with all my heart and soul.
She makes the most beautiful candles.
She's an artiste.
She is.
And she's wonderful.
And she ships them so fast.
Oh, yeah.
I think she teleports them to your home.
She's just she puts things together very carefully, and it's just like you can tell she gives. And it's just like, yeah.
I love her.
So go take a look at her on Etsy. But don't buy them all because I want them.
Yeah, don't buy them all. All right. Well, we hope you keep listening.
But we hope you
keep it weird. But not so weird that any of this happens or pertains to your life because yikes.
Literally none of it.
Yikesies. Bye. Bye. If you like Morbid, you can listen early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.